Welcome to CAM Matters, Condos, Co-ops, HOAs, and beyond. Betsy Barbieux is an informational leader in Florida on community association living, rights, and obligations. She is an expert on the rights and obligations of owners as well as the association. If you live or are planning to live in the state of Florida, there's a good chance you'll be part of a community association. And by the end of this show, you'll know a little bit more about community associations and why they matter.
And here we are. It is the final episode of 2023 of CAM Matters. I'm Suzanne Lynn with Betsy Barbieux. Welcome. We're glad that you're here. Betsy, my goodness, I can't believe it's December already.
Unbelievable. I can't believe that we have done 5 years of shows. It's unbelievable. It seems like we just started yesterday.
It really does. You have a thick, rich library of content that goes back. And people are really learning on. Yeah.
And people tell me that they find me on YouTube faster than they find me just in a Google search, which is great.
That is great. That's amazing. Well, we have a lot to cover because we're going to go back and repeat some of the shows, kind of gloss over, but capture the spirit of what those shows were about. When I think about some of the early shows of 2023, the first one was talking about corporations, community association, and the threefold mission that we have as corporations and in our CAMs. Yeah.
And that is such a misunderstood topic, and I felt it was real important to do it. We explained in that show the difference between a for-profit Florida corporation, a not-for-profit Florida corporation, and a non-profit charitable organization. We describe the differences, and we're not a non-profit. We are not a non-profit charitable organization. So catch that show if you want a better explanation of that. But I think we also recapped in that show the main purpose of your association, which would then be the main purpose of your board meetings, and what drives your budget is that we had a threefold mission statement every community in the state of Florida. So if you're listening to us, this is what you are supposed to be doing. Protect the property and its value, maintain the things that are used in common, and enforce the restrictions on the owner's use rights of their property. And that's it. Your documents may say more, but you know what that's in contrast to? It's in contrast to a social organization. It's not a social organization. It's a big business organization. So
it's a corporation. And one of the things that you said in that show was that it's important corporation because it gives you bargaining power.
Yes, corporations are great vehicles for groups of people to get business done. You know, if you didn't have a corporation, then all 373 owners would have to sign the loan contract.
Right.
But having a corporation, it's its own entity, has its own bank account, tax ID number. It acts as its own person, so it can contract on behalf of itself and its members. So we don't want 373 of you having to sign a contract.
Chaos.
Yeah, really.
Well, Betsy, I think about one of the early shows that we talked about being an effective board member, and I smile when I think about this because we not only talked about transparency, but I think it's the first time in all 5 years that you've used the word stiff neck. And that just made me laugh. But I want to recap that one.
Oh, stiff-necked. Yes, I used that word. Oh, no.
You went there. You did it.
Yeah, I did. And and I used it another time that I probably shouldn't have used that you don't know about. It's interesting to me that if you're going to be a board member, I would think that you would want to learn. And refusing to learn and refusing to even be willing to learn, I mean, you can not learn a thing if you don't want to, but the industry is huge. The laws are volumes and volumes of laws. And then you've got volumes of the Florida Administrative Code. And then you have all of the details of your documents that half of which don't make any sense. And you can read and read and read, but if you're reading without understanding, then it's pointless. And I don't know why you wouldn't be interested in a little explanation.
Right.
You know, for instance, there is a part of the training material that says that your board meetings are the business meetings of the association. And, you know, you can just kind of read right over that and not even think about it or really what it means until I say, in contrast, business meetings as opposed to informational meetings. Board meetings are not informational meetings for the owners. And then you go, oh,
wait a minute.
Business meeting. Oh, that's what you mean. Yes, I mean a business meeting. I don't mean an informational meeting. You can have informational meetings other times, but not at the board meeting. And so it just is interesting to me that people won't ask the next question, like, what does that mean?
Right.
And so
I was just going to say, in contrast, we talk about people like Jean and Karen, who we did a show on. They're putting the principles of your CAM Matters show into their daily practice of their.
I think they're from Concord Arms down in Fort Lauderdale or Palm Beach, down that way, and they found me and have been become groupies, and even arranged to meet me at the CAI Central Florida Trade Show back in March, so that we got to meet in person and talk with each other. And they were so delightful. So I asked them if they'd be on the show and tell people what they're doing. And they were so cute. They got show shy. Show shy. They were just standing before the show, and then we turn that on and say we're recording them. They just they get scared. But what they have is I think it was a 1960s or 70s co-op, and they've done it the same old way all these decades, and began watching the shows and started making some changes little by little, and they have actually moved their community along into being, what it boils down to is being compliant with the law, because they were just doing things their own way.
So that's kind of your ultimate goal, right? You must look at that and go, a baby has grown up to adulthood.
Yeah.
That's what we're doing. Yeah.
And they're just really, really sweet. And I kind of always play toward, teach toward the worst thing that can happen. And the worst thing that can happen to a community is that you've been doing it wrong all these years, and an owner moves in who knows you're doing it wrong. And then they just start filing the complaints. Yeah. And so I'm always looking at, can a complaint be filed? And in so many communities, a lot of complaints can be filed against you. And that takes up a lot of time. It can take up a lot of money. And if you continue to do it wrong, then the state will fine the association. And you don't
want serious business. Yeah.
You don't want to have to pay more money than you need to.
Yeah. Betsy, we've got some more shows that we want to recap from 2023. Let's take a quick break and we'll come back. I want to talk about good communication skills. You know where I'm going. Hang on.
I do.
Are you ready for a new career? Do you have skills or interest in management, real estate, construction, maintenance, accounting, strategic planning, project management, budgets, human resource management, lawn and landscaping, pool services, or any other expertise needed to operate a community association? If you do, community association management could be for you. For more information, feel free to email Betsy at betsy@floridacamschools.com or visit the Florida Cam Schools website at www.floridacamschools.com. Florida Community Association Management continues to grow. Career opportunities abound.
And welcome back to CAM Matters. I'm Suzanne Lynn with Betsy Barbieux, and we're just recapping the 2023 shows. It's hard to believe it's December of 2023 already. And as we look back and dig into what some of those shows were, I love about communication. And Betsy, you're so good when you describe why it's important to communicate, and a best way to is through the disc. Would you touch on that?
Yeah, Suzanne has just mentioned DISC, which is DISC, and that just simply describes the different parts of your brain, of your head, that you prefer to communicate from. I am a certified, they say I'm a certified advanced behavior specialist, and can offer those self-assessments and then explanations of what all of it means. But it boils down to some people are fast-paced decision makers, some people are slower-paced decision makers. And you'll see that in an instant on a board of directors. You'll see the ones who want to hurry up and make a decision, and you'll see the ones who go, well, wait, I think maybe we ought to slow down and think about it.
We need a noodle on this one.
Yeah. And then they go over it again next month and next month and next month, and it just drives the other people crazy. But then also people usually can be categorized as more people-oriented or more task-oriented. And the DISC it's a self-assessment, so it's not a psychological evaluation where somebody's telling you what you are. You're assessing yourself,
right?
And it will show how much you prefer to be fast-paced decision maker or slower or task-oriented or more people-oriented. Once you know that about yourself, you begin to come to the realization that other people are not like you. And that just like, somewhere we know that on some sort of intuitive level, but we don't act like we do.
Right. When we communicate, we're trying to talk to people the way we want to be talked to and communicated. So, yeah.
And once you learn just a few little hints of how each of the different styles prefer to communicate, you can work better, hopefully, with a board and with your residents. And it also translates to family and friends.
Betsy, let's dig a little bit deeper with this. Let's get an example. Do the DISC stuff about the breakdown.
Just love this. I could do hours on this. And by the way, plug for the yearly educational summit that will be August 15th and 16th in 2024. Day one is letting the managers do a self-assessment of their communication style. So the front left part of the brain is our dominant, direct, determined, demanding, decisive doer part of the brain. This is the fast-paced, task-oriented part of the brain. The front right part of the brain is our influencing, inducing, interactive, impressive, interesting, and interested in people part of the brain, and is still fast-paced, but it's people-oriented. The back right part of the brain is our steady, stable, supportive, sensitive, sweet, and shy. And this is our more reserved, slower paced, low risk decision maker, but still people oriented. And over here is our cautious, calculating, competent, compliant, critical, analyst, contemplative, careful person who is more slower to make decisions, less risk, but task oriented. And you can measure how much of each of the parts of your brain that you use to make decisions. And what's interesting about this particular study is that it shows the way you were born. If people would just leave you alone and you could be whichever one of these four or combination of these four that you could be, it shows how you were born. But it also shows the mode that you're in while you're doing the assessment. If you've been having a really hectic day, then it's likely to show a different profile. For the public side of you that's showing right now. And that's the side of you that changes probably several times during a day. And you talk differently to the dog than you do to your spouse.
Right.
You talk different. Right. You talk differently to a client than you do to a child. So
absolutely,
we adjust our communication style during the day.
It's interesting because we do that to communicate with that person better. We know that speaking to a child in a different tone is. Why do we not do that with a difficult, owner when we're a board member? So if you're a D as a board member and you're dealing with an S with a difficult owner, I mean, this is imperative.
No,
you
can't talk the same way and have them listen with understanding. Back to that. Read with understanding, listen with understanding.
Right.
If you don't use some of their words or tones, then they won't hear you with understanding.
Very powerful. Betsy, you talked about yes, and I want to go to the 2023 yes. Share with us about what happened, some of the highlights, and what 24 looks like.
Well, 24 will be a repeat. So the day one will be the legal update and the self-assessment, and using the DISC will be the self-assessment. And then we'll spend a lot of time the rest of the day going over what that means and how to use it. And you'll be looking at your own profile. It won't be anybody telling you anything about yourself.
Right.
It'll be you looking at your profile. So there's no good or bad, right or wrong, preferred, not preferred. There's no goal to strive toward. It's just that you are what you are, and let's use it the best way we can. Then day two will be our typical roundtable with our 4 facilitators. This year we had Phil Massey on insurance. We had Matt Queasley for reserves. We had Mitch Drimmer on collections, and we had Joe Casalis on roofing. And that will be the same again next year. Lord willing, I'll still have the same facilitators. Except I know that the legal update will not be done by Attorney Catherine Hurst Miller, because she just got appointed by Governor.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Position in Volusia.
Happy for her.
So we are so happy for her, but sad for us.
Yeah.
One of the better condominium board certified attorneys in the state of Florida will now be sitting on the bench. And I hope I don't ever see her that way.
That's right.
But we are absolutely delighted for Catherine.
That's wonderful.
Well,
so what were some of the highlights? What were people saying that they took away from the 2023 Yes Summit?
You know what they said? They wish that they could make all of their board members take the self-assessment.
That's a good one. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. How are you really being seen? How are you viewed? You know?
Well, and when a group of people who work together or live together, when a group does this particular study together, then there's a lot of team building that happens there. There's a lot of understanding each other better. And what most of us find out is that, oh, you weren't being that way just to get my goat.
Right.
Because each of us can get each other's goat. We are different styles.
Oh, yeah.
I said, oh, you weren't doing that on purpose. That's just the way you are.
How you communicate, yeah.
And, you know, when you find out that someone who is a dominant, direct, determined, demanding, decisive doer is always kind of like using their finger and talking harshly, and it might not be, they might not be angry. They might not be frustrated. They might not be upset. It's just their manner of talk. And then the opposite of that would be the person, when you talk with them, they're always saying back to you, well, what do you think? Well, what do you think? What do you think? What do you think? And
that seems sheepish or insecure.
And what they're wanting to know is, how can they support you?
Wow.
To them, it's more important what you think rather than what do they think. Because they want to know what you want, because they want to please you. It's not that they're indecisive. Yeah. They can make decisions, but they have a tendency to want to be in that supportive position.
That's so good, Betsy.
We could do a course on this.
I know.
But we learned a lot. They learned a lot about each other in day one, and there was a lot of take-home material that they could take home and look at, and still do some kind of like little workbook things I had for them to do, and they could answer their own questions about themselves.
And if anybody's got questions and they're interested in, I mean, it's really super early for the 24, but they can reach out to you, right?
It's on the website, and they can register right now.
Wonderful.
It's up and running. And Miss Debbie is going to cook for us, and we'll have chocolate chip cookies again.
that alone is worth going for.
That's worth going.
Yeah, that's worth
And
going for.
it'll be same place in Leesburg at the community building. And I'm going to plan to have our social hour across the parking lot at the Ski Beach restaurant.
That's great.
And I'm hoping, I'm going to need sponsors. So sponsorships are available right now.
Okay, what does that look like? What does that mean for someone? They're going to get exposure to some pretty
exposure. The advertising on it, they get the list of the attendees and you get to a table at the event on day one, lunch, cookies, and a chance to just give a little presentation of what you can offer.
Very good. So the other show that I'm thinking about is Kathy Slate, and we talked about electronic voting. Let's tap into that a little bit.
The legislators changed or added to the law. I don't know. It's probably been 6 or 7 or 8. I don't know. Time flies. Maybe 10 years ago. They added the ability for electronic voting. The election process for condominiums and co-ops is actually good on paper. The way the legislators have written it out, it's actually a very good process. But we need to start stepping into the 21st, 22nd, 23rd centuries. And they now permit electronic voting. There are companies and law offices that offer this service. But Kathy Slate came from HOA votes. She came to talk with us about the process that they offer and how simple it is for a community to set that up so that it's easy for their owners, it's easy for the board, it's easy for the manager. It sounded like it was a kind of a one-stop shopping for what you need for the electronic voting.
Yeah.
The problem at this point is that not everybody has a computer, not everybody has one, will use one to do something like that. So there's still kind of a hybrid. Some owners vote electronically, some are still using the paper method.
Yeah.
There's
not consistency right now.
No.
Yeah.
And then one day it will all be electronic, but probably not in my lifetime.
Right. Well, it seems a little intimidating and the having to make that big changeover, but Kathy made it.
She made it sound like that you would do a lot of the heavy lifting part of that.
Yeah.
I know in our CAI chapter, we do electronic voting for our board members in our CAI chapter, and it's a secure kind of system that I assume is similar to what her company offers and some of the other companies. You have a dedicated password, some checks and balances to make sure that that's you, and then you can actually go into the program and see that your vote was counted. So
yeah.
I think that from what I could tell, her description seemed very similar to that.
Yeah. It's a really good one to check out. And then I'm moving into one of the final shows of the season for 2023. Budget meetings gone wild. I'm just going to leave it. I'm going to put that in your lap.
Oh my goodness. I told Denise, my manager, I said, if we get through this one, which was our first budget meeting for the season, I said, if we get through this one, all the others will be easy. And I did not know how prophetic I was. Wow. I think it was literally 7 minutes into when the meeting was supposed to have started that I had already called 911 and was in the process of emptying the room. There was a group that was unhappy with the figures that the board was considering, and instead of listening with understanding to the discussion, just as I was ready to nod at the board president and say, you can call the meeting to order, this man stormed the table and started reading like a hear ye, like a town hall crier. This meeting shall not come to order. This is an illegal meeting. You are hereby recalled, and you're recalled, and you're recalled, and you're recalled. And many pointed at me and said, you're fired.
Okay, and what was he standing on? Where did he get this?
Reading without understanding. That's going to be my next article. I don't know whether to call it reading with understanding or reading without understanding. They had read, that he and his group had read a portion in their declaration that said 10% of the owners can call a meeting for the purpose of recall. They read it to mean that 10% of the owners can recall a board. What that meant was 10% can petition to schedule a membership meeting for the purpose of recalling the board. Not that 10% of the owners get to ditch the whole board. And so I sent them all of the Division of Condominiums has not that I advocate recalling your boards, but when it is necessary, there's a very nice handbook that the Division of Condominiums has, along with a sample written ballot. The Division of Condominiums does not want you to do a recall at a meeting. They want you to do it by written ballot for a lot of reasons. For one thing, a meeting will get violent.
Right.
And this was a budget
Right.
meeting.
Right.
But the other thing that they misread was the different powers that the corporate statutes and the documents give the board. You know, the ability to contract with people, the ability to employ employees, to open bank accounts, borrow money, those kinds of things that the boards of directors do. And the way it reads, it says the association can do this, the association can do that. They took that to mean that the 10% can fire somebody. And so they did not understand, I'm not an employee. I'm a contract worker. And so they all, 6 of them, which is 10%. Everything I get has 6 signatures on it because that's their 10%.
Okay.
Who are doing everything, I guess. So they said, you're fired. I said, you can't fire me. No.
Wow.
Well, you're fired. Well, too bad. Not legal.
Doesn't work that way. Right.
Don't work that way. But here's what I did. I said, here's how you do it. Here. I gave him the bullet. Here's how you do it.
Right.
It's not personal to me. If you don't want me here, that's fine. But do it the right way.
Right.
You've
got to do it legally
here. That's fine. It's but do it the right way. And the statute is clear, but they only read a little bit in their documents, and they didn't read the whole rest of it. And they just took it and ran with it. So this community still now, 3 months later, is still in an uproar. We have 2 boards. Wow. We have the real board and me, and we have them. And
okay. Well, this is a great way to end and say, this shows the chaos with misunderstanding and interpreting and reading without understanding. And this is a great reason to go back and look at the past 5 years of amazing shows that you've done, Betsy, because the truth is in those, not what you want it to say, not what you think it says. Yeah. True. Yeah.
And there are so many people who have business and corporate experience, and some of that is useful in our day-to-day dealings and our board meetings, but some of it is not. We have other laws that we have to follow that regular business or corporations don't follow.
That's such a good point.
And so we have to weave in all of these other statutes and Florida Administrative Code rules, along with our Robert's Rules of Order for meetings and our just prudent business judgments. We have to weave all of that in together.
Well, oh my goodness, here we are.
5 years.
End of
We've been doing this for 5 years.
But we'll be back.
We will.
Lots of more information to be put out there. And Betsy, you're just amazing.
You are for sure.
You do.
You're a great hostess. I couldn't do this without
Well, I got it easy. I don't know anything, and I asked you the questions, and you have the answers. So I like this relationship. This is good.
Yeah.
Well, Betsy, you are loved, and I hope that you have a wonderful 2024. Look forward to the January show. And do you have any final thoughts or wisdom to leave your audience with?
No, I mean, I will, date this video and say it is December 2023. Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
See you in the new year.
Amen. Take care, Betsy.
Thank you.
Thank you. And be sure to share and subscribe and jump on board if you haven't seen any of the videos from the past 5 years. There's a wealth of information for you. And we thank you. Thanks for being part of the CAM Matters family.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you for listening to CAM Matters. Be sure to subscribe so you don't miss any future episodes. For more information, feel free to email Betsy at betsy@floridacamschools.com or visit the Florida Cam Schools website at www.floridacamschools.com. Information provided on this show is general in nature and does not constitute legal advice. Please contact a licensed attorney for your specific situation.